Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 81 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bolin, and with me is Austin Dowlonga at Medicine Hat. Ozzy, how are things?
Things are swell. We're making do. Got some laptop issues, so you got me on the phone to our audience, and yeah, hopefully all goes well. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Now you're coming in loud and clear, buddy. So let's jump right into it. So due to your technical difficulties, I'll be manning the clock right now. And yeah, 2 minutes, recap all the games. And here we go. Fitzmagic makes Minshew Mania look like a two-car parade as the Dolphins take down the Jags 31-13. The 49ers make quick work of the New York Giants 36-9. Not much to be said there. The Washington football team, HasKING has fallen off his throne as they lose to the Browns 34-20. The Bengals and Eagles kiss their sister and tie the game 23-23 apiece. The Raiders fall to the upstart Patriots 36-20. The Bears and Nick Foles magic takes over as they defeat the Falcons, blowing their second straight lead 30-26. The Rams make a valiant effort to come back from a 28-3 deficit, speaking of the Falcons, only to fall short and lose that one 35-32 to a last-minute touchdown by Josh Allen. And the Texans, B.O.B. might be jobless as they lose 28-21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Vikings, on a mission to get their first victory, crumble in the last seconds as Steven Gostkowski scores a field goal in the last 2 minutes of that game. Justin Herbert's magic falls off as the Panthers can come out with a victory against the Chargers 21-16. The Jets are just the worst football team in the league, and it's not close. 36-7 for the Colts in that one. Dak turns the ball over when he didn't need to even try for a last ditch effort play, and the Seahawks beat the Cowboys 38-31. The Lions stunned the Cardinals that were really hot, and they win 26-23. Tom Brady and those pesky Buccaneers, they crumble the Broncos 28-10. The Packers surprised the Saints in New Orleans 37-30, and the Chiefs really shocked the Ravens and made mincemeat out of them 34-20.
Ooh, with 4 seconds left. Well done, Ozzy. I screwed up the delivery on I was supposed to say B.O.B. might be out of a J.O.B., but I did not even come close to what I wanted to say there. And B.O.B. being Bill O'Brien. But yeah, things are not good there. I wanted to start with the COVID news and the Texans, and the Titans, but I really need to address. So I sent out this tweet last night saying that the Ravens failed to show up to big games, and I got a lot of pushback because everyone's like, "Oh, they beat the Pats and the Seahawks last year and all this." I don't care. I just look at this and it's like, yeah, the Chiefs are like their two main losses in the Titans last year, and then one guy said, "Oh, so they only show up to the big games. They only don't show up to the big games that they've lost." And I'm like, I tweeted that out of anger, but at the same time, it's like this Ravens team is not making me a believer in them. And I think, we've seen 3 times out of them not show up to a big game, 2 of them being the Chiefs in the regular season and 1 being the Titans game last year. I mean, yes, they've beaten the Seahawks. They beat the Patriots in prime time. So there's been flashes. I'm not saying this team is bad, but if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm not exactly inspired. I don't know how if you're a Ravens fan, you can walk away from that game and just be like, oh, just wait for the playoffs. I mean, nothing this team has done has indicated that they're going to be capable of, making that extra push. And Lamar Jackson, I haven't watched all of his games, but it seems like when things aren't going well, he gets very frustrated. Like rarely, and I know Russell's maybe the standard, but even Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, I rarely see them get too fired up and mad, and yelling at the receivers. Like Rodgers has his words with his receivers, but he's always kind of Mr. Calm, and Wilson's Mr. Neutral mindset and so forth. I mean, if Lamar Jackson's going to be put in that tier, he's got to really manage adversity better in my mind. And I just wanted to lead off with that because, I mean, it's one of the few tweets I put out that actually get that kind of pushback and engagement, but it did. I angered a lot of Ravens fans, but I think it's justified. And even Nick Wright came out and said today that he compares Lamar Jackson to Giannis Antetokounmpo of the NBA, or that they're these big names and they're very powerful and they're one of the best in the league. But when it comes to the big moments, they haven't shown that they can take that next step yet. And I think I couldn't have put it any better, honestly. And I just wanted to get your thoughts, Ozzy, on this Ravens team, because I think you kind of agreed with me. You liked the tweet anyway, so that tells me you agree with me.
Man, just a real side note real quick. you and liking tweets. So whenever you see a tweet that I like, you just instantly take that to heart. Or
Oh
regardless,
yeah, it's real news.
like some Patriots propaganda that's clearly just like phony, but and just for fun, you're like, oh, you like that? That must mean you believe it.
Nothing gets by my radar, man.
Yeah, just had to get on my. I feel like you probably go onto my profile and just go and scroll on my likes and just see what I'm liking these days. But anyways, to your back on track here. In regards to your tweet and some of the pushback you got, like that one remark you had mentioned about the Seahawks, the Ravens versus the Seahawks, and the Ravens versus the Patriots. I don't know. I think that argument kind of falls on itself just because in one way, the Patriots were clearly not the same powerhouse as they had always been. And in another sense, if you're going to show up for those games in the regular season, how do you expect to get to the Super Bowl if you can't get past those juggernauts or those teams when it matters, right? Like you're trying to, like, nothing matters in the regular season. And if you're going to say like, oh, well, wait till the playoffs, this team still has it. Like they didn't show up in what was the Super Bowl of the regular season. And I think that speaks volumes as to what this team is capable of as of right now, because you're going to have to face the Chiefs or the Titans or the Patriots or the Steelers in the playoffs. And are you going to be able to get past them if you're Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? Those teams are really strong teams, and they got shut down last night by the former Super Bowl champions. So I am hesitant I totally agree with you. That's my long way of saying that. And that pushback is really just a bunch of blind optimism, because how can you watch that blowout and think that the Ravens are capable of beating the Chiefs in the playoffs? Like, what?
You won't even be at home either. Like it's going to be totally different.
Yeah. So yeah, I just totally came to a shock though, because we all had the Ravens winning that one. I thought they were the more complete team, and
Same here.
Chiefs defense came to play. That defense is feisty and it's scary, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing if I'm a team in the AFC. That is scary stuff out there.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Chiefs. I don't think the Seahawks do in the regular season, but yeah, it's just especially bad right now. Like they are just playing another level of football. And if we got Jasper on the screen now, if if Seattle's defense were to go up against the Chiefs right now, they might drop 50 points on us. I mean, it's that bad. Anyways, let's long story short, the Ravens are a good team and they're probably still an elite team. I'm not saying they're bad. I think people take it too far. I'm just saying, the next time they have a primetime slot and they're playing a Steelers, a Patriots, or it wouldn't be the Chiefs again to the playoffs, or a Titans, I'm not picking them. I'm tired of them. I will not be made a fool by them. I mean, fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. So you'll not fool me again. I sound like George Bush delivering that. Okay. Anyways, let's talk the COVID outbreak in the Tennessee Titans. They had 8 people on their team test positive, 3 players, 5 staff members. And so they are locked out of their facility until Saturday. Right now, the NFL still plans for them to go ahead with their game on Sunday. And the the Titans have reached out to their players and said, prepare as if we're playing Sunday, no excuses. So whatever kind of means they have at their own disposal to, make that happen, I guess they're going to try. Sounds like the Vikings, they evacuated their facility, but haven't heard of any positive tests on their end. So that's good news. But the NFL's first hurdle as far as managing gameplay during a pandemic, it was nice those first couple of weeks having only a handful of positive tests throughout multiple teams, like 1 player per team. But now this is kind of the first outbreak and, have to deal with the ramifications. But I think they'll get through it. I can't see the NFL shutting things down completely. And I think it would take a lot for that to happen. Like all 32 teams would have to have a significant outbreak for that to happen, or at least more than half the league, in my opinion. I think there's a contingency plan to at least, reschedule a few of these games. I mean, they rescheduled one for a hurricane last year. I think they'll do one for COVID this year. It's kind of the way it goes. But any thoughts on this, Ozzy?
Just real quick, I think that if NFL wants to avoid a possible outbreak among multiple teams, I think they need to just cancel these games for the Titans and the Vikings moving forward just for this week, because there's 8 positive tests. So how many people are asymptomatic right now or may have just gotten it from those people that we just found out about, and maybe they don't show up on a test, or I don't know how the science works exactly, but like what happens if they start getting symptoms in 3 days from now, or even on Monday, right? So that's going to be that's quite scary if they test before the games and stuff like that. But like, why would you even open yourself up to that? And especially if you are the NFL and you want a competitive game, the Titans aren't practicing all week. They're relying on the players to train on their own or practice on their own and get ready for this week game. That's not going to be a competitive ball game at all. The Steelers are going to wipe the floor with them because they're just practicing as if it's normal, right? So that's my take on it. I think that if it was me, I would just play it safe, because you don't want all of a sudden to have 4 teams that have COVID tests come up positive, and all of a sudden now that's 1/8 of the league is now has outbreaks. So because once you go there, then you kind of playing with fire. So I don't want to fold this year. So I would rather just play it safe and just have a bye week early for these guys. The Vikings need it. So
yeah, that's true.
Take a serious 5 and regroup, because 0-3 started like what?
Yeah, it doesn't look good for either of those teams, so they could definitely use it. Okay, well, on to some more positive news, that games that will be hopefully being played. Nick Foles came in and for relief from Mitch Trubisky, and it finally happened. Ozzy, you called it. You shared it. It was our preview episode 78, I believe. And you said by week 4, Nick Foles would be coming into the fold to save the season. They're already 3-0, so not a lot. The supplemental roster helped carry them to that point, but now they're kind of a scary team, because now you have a competent quarterback. And I think it's time to close the chapter on Mitch Trubisky. He's probably a career backup going forward at this point. I'm not really nervous saying that, or that take coming back to bite me in the ass. I think you'll kind of see him take the Blake Bortles route, not going to an AFC championship or NFC championship by any means, but just kind of, he'll be a backup for a few different teams and probably out of the league in 5 years. But sad. I'm not rooting for that, but I'm surprised they stuck with him for this long. Ozzy, do you want to get your gloating in, or what was your take on Nick Foles producing that big 26-10 comeback?
Well, yeah, first of all, I had to show off that I had the receipts for finally a take that was actually right. Right is for this week anyways. I think that Nick Foles showed exactly what we kind of expected out of Nick Foles when he came in late in this game. The Falcons' collapse is one other thing completely, but Nick Foles showing that he can take advantage of a weak team. I really like that. That's exactly what he's supposed to come in and do. And Mitch Trubisky simply couldn't do it, right? So I don't think that I totally agree. I don't think Mitch Trubisky's coming back. And this start for the Bears, I know I called them pretenders or whatever last week, as they're 2-0 against the Lions and the Giants, who are obviously not the greatest teams in the league. But I had the Bears going 12-4 this year if Nick Foles was starting. I'm back on that now that Nick Foles is the starting quarterback going forward. 12-4, it's totally realistic now. They started off 3-0 and they changed quarterbacks. That is fascinating in itself.
Yeah.
But 12-4 is totally possible with Nick Foles, a competent starter in this league who has shown that he can go on a run. I really like this. And no, he didn't win the QB battle in the preseason. I'm not going to put too much stock in that because it was a different preseason. So I like that he's got some time under this system, and he showed that he hasn't lost a step in that comeback. So I'm all in on the Bears again. They're winning the division 12-4. Let's go.
Even with vintage A-Rod back by the looks of it?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm saying that with a lot of confidence, but that's just because I don't want to go back on my picks because I'm not a coward.
Fair enough. Yeah, Nick Foles, and with that visor too, it's like not quite a clear visor or a blacked out. It's like that smoke gray one. I just say
Oh,
that because like that's like the choice on Madden. You can either have like fully clear smoke gray or all blacked out, and he looks cool, man. He looks like he's ready to ball out there. So I'm excited for him. I'm happy they finally made that change. I think Matt Nagy saved his job, honestly, by making that call. So, uh, in some more elite quarterback news, I'm kidding. Russell Wilson broke Patrick Mahomes' 2018 record for the most touchdown passes through the first 3 games of the season with 14. Mahomes' record was 13. However, the Seahawks defense continues to struggle as Dak Prescott put up 400 yards. I believe I saw the stat. The Seahawks defense has allowed 1,200 passing yards through 3 games, which is an NFL record. I mean, a far cry from the Legion of Boom Seahawks fans we're used to watching earlier in the decade, but I hate saying this. This isn't sustainable. Russ's play might be sustainable, but the wins that we're getting off of this won't be if our defense continues this putrid level of play. And now to make things worse, Jamal Adams is dealing with a groin injury. So I think a couple things the Seahawks can do is get Shaquem Griffin in the regular rotation as a pass rusher. He came in late in the fourth quarter and was flying all over the field, making stops and getting pressures. And he was, I think, the highest graded Seahawks defender that day just from his brief moments on the field there. So goes to show he's making some good things happen. If we can get Quinton Dunbar back at corner, get Trey Flowers, his confidence looks shot. I think Trey Flowers still has a future in the league, but he's got to get his confidence back. He looks like he's just nothing there. And Shaquille Griffin, the corner, needs to definitely step up his game. He's in a contract here, and he's not making himself any money with the way he's playing right now. But Seahawks are 3-0. It feels good, but honestly, it feels like there's a ticking time bomb. And it felt like that last year too, when Russell Wilson was in the MVP conversation. But as soon as his play leveled off just a bit, we finished the season 1-3 because we hit injuries and the defense couldn't keep up. So something needs to change. I don't know if it's schematically with Ken Norton at defensive coordinator or if it's players' individual efforts, but Ozzy, how confident are you? I'll get an unbiased take. How confident are you that the Seahawks can keep this up on a way to a division title in this tough a division if the defense doesn't marginally improve from what they're doing right now?
oh, it's such a tough spot because on one hand, like it's polar opposites. You've got Russell Wilson playing out of his mind, but then you've got your defense. So like at what point is it going to collide that Russell Wilson can't keep pulling out these wins? I'm going to say that I think that if anything, if the 49ers can't overcome these injuries, I think this division is the Cardinals just at this rate because of the defense for Seattle. I don't think leaning on Russ that much is not sustainable. I can't see it. That's so much magic that he's been pulling out, and obviously he's shown that he can do that time and again. But for 16 games and then playoffs, I can't say that. Like he would be putting up, I think I saw something on Twitter that he might be on pace for 75 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So can't see that happening, unfortunately. And I just think that the defense it's broken and it's just going to get worse at this point. Like it's got to get better, but Russell Wilson getting 75 touchdowns, I see less likely than the defense for Seattle improving. So
I'd like to see Russ hit like 50. It'd be really cool if he could join company of Mahomes, Dan Marino. I think Marino only got 49, but Manning and Brady. Be really cool if he could join that elite company. But yeah, like, I mean, he's going to have a couple games where he might just throw 2 touchdowns and 275 yards or something just based on what the defense does. I think Seattle's sticking to this philosophy of letting Russ cook. And Brian Schottenheimer's been calling some great play designs and allowing for that to happen. But I mean, 5 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game. Yeah, that's a lot to ask for your quarterback. And, this game should have been done in the second quarter. I feel like Seattle should have won this thing like 38-15, but the defense just allowed Dak to continue to creep back into this thing. And it just really wasn't a inspiring performance by that defense.
how about that though? Russell Wilson, man, like in that game going shot for shot. And I know it's Dak, but Dak had a heck of a game too, even
Yeah.
against defense. But that was a really good game, and that was really enjoyable to watch. And I mean, sometimes you like to watch those like grungy defensive matchups, but this is when you got two offenses just going back and forth, and it got intense in there for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in Russ Cook, he is freaking good, man. Oh, he is like,
It's crazy.
that whole offseason just brewing up about Seahawks Twitter was going off about how he's never received an MVP vote. It seemed more than in years past. And Russ was like reading those tweets. He was a part of Seahawks Twitter. He's scrolling. He's like, yeah, you know what?
There is a weird connection because like the Cable Thanos who makes those hype videos for Seattle, he's been doing it since 2018. Russell Wilson brought him on as his like personal like videographer kind of thing where like he works, or I think Russ has a company now called like Empire Management's Javon Foster's the company, but it's something like that. And so this guy makes like videos for Russ now, and because Russ has seen all these hype videos that he's made. And so Josh Cashman is his name, Cable Thanos. And so like through that, Russ probably has a connection through Seahawks Twitter because like he's always commenting and stuff. And if he's on Twitter, he's seeing this stuff. And there's a lot of jokes around that like Seahawks Twitter memed Pete Carroll into letting Russ cook. Like they just sent enough memes and talked enough shit that it got Russ going to Shoddy being like, hey guys, can we maybe put the ball in my hands a little more often? And I mean, I'm not a fan of looking in the past, but I just like, and Russell had to grow to this point, but I wish we could have had this Russell Wilson with like those post kind of Super Bowl loss years, like 2015, 16, 17, because I feel like we could have made it back to the dance a few times had we let Russ cook, which it's become such a mainstream thing now. It's like, oh, we let Russ cook, and you got Chris Collinsworth saying it now. It's kind of lost. It's like when things become mainstream, right? They're not as cool, but I mean, continue letting Russ cook at this point because it's clearly working. And I tip my cap to Brian Schottenheimer too, who's been calling some great play designs. I've been reading a lot of articles on how he's scheming different wide receivers open, and it's just really great to watch. And our offensive line graded 5th in pass protection. When was the last time I've ever seen the Seahawks offensive line graded in that high in pass protection? Probably you have to go back to 2005 during the Walter Jones, who's a Hall of Famer, and Steve Hutchinson era with Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander. I mean, it's just really great to see. So love to see it. Let's go to your division, Ozzy. The Bills blow a 28-3 lead. I mean, I was keeping tabs on this game only for the Rams to come roaring back, or they built a 28-3 lead. Only have the Rams come roaring back, and then Josh Allen marches down the field and ices the game. I mean, is this kind of Josh Allen's coming out party where like he can lead that team now? He's not just a product of the supporting cast around him, and you know, people like just think of him as just a mobile quarterback who relies on his running game. Now he's threw 3 touchdowns, ran for 1 more. Is he the real deal?
Yeah, well, I would like to think so. I didn't watch this game actually, so I would be curious to see how it was possible that the Rams were able to come back. Like, there's a lot to go wrong for an offense if you have a 25-point lead and let the other team come back. So I'd be curious what happened in that space. That maybe if there's some mental lapses on Allen's part, but for the most part, I think that the Bills are just like, the comeback aside, I still think that this team is built for making some noise. I feel like they could be, because they're going to be a wild card team because the Pats are winning the division.
There it is.
I think that the Bills could be one of those pesky wild card teams that, you know, as the defense gets better and better and stops freaking letting these teams come back, that's 2 weeks in a row. If they could be a team, you know, that stops a team like the Ravens or the Titans, because their defense has just always been that good. So I am a believer in Josh Allen. To answer your question, I mentioned it on previous podcasts that if the Bills weren't in our division, I'd be cheering for them because they're just such a fun team to watch. Josh Allen's so electrifying. He's going to win MVP over Russ. And
Ozzy, don't play with my heart like that. Don't make me a hater of Josh Allen. Like, if you put anyone in direct contention with Russ, I immediately hate them, and I like Josh Allen. So,
yeah, no, I do really like this team, but yeah, they've got to watch it with those comebacks. I think that those will come back to bite them if they continue that. They're 3-0 now, but that'd be like that could be a quick fall to like 9-7 by the end of the year if they can't close out these games with these big leads. You just got to grind it out, and they just need to learn how to win.
Absolutely. Ozzy, on a more somber note, a couple weeks ago on this podcast, Zach picked the Washington football team to lose. And we said, you know what, on the bright side, if they only lose by 10 or something, it's all good. They got to, they put up 20 points or something, right? I think that was the joke. And then, we even said, even if Dwayne Haskins throws a pick is just a lesson learned. Well, the HasKing had 3 big lessons to learn as he threw 3 interceptions against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, a fumble.
And all you have to do is do a quick and a fumble. All you have to do is do a quick search on Twitter, and you find a lot of people down on Haskins. And then you even have Ron Rivera saying, you have all these guys on defense and the offensive line, and he pretty much just singled Haskins out. He said everyone on this team is busting their ass for a win, and you have Dwayne Haskins making these mistakes. It's unacceptable. But he said he's our guy until further notice. But many are still calling for Kyle Allen to come in because they feel like there's a better chance. In fairness, he's had to play some pretty tough defenses, but this week he's going up against the 0-3 Giants, I believe. When do we get off the Haskins train, if ever? And do you think his opportunities of being a quality starting quarterback in the NFL comes down to this matchup against the 0-3 Giants, which is a pretty even matchup? If he can't put something together this week, do you think it's time to move on to Kyle Allen?
I would say with the state of the Giants that yes, this is as sad as it is to say, because Haskins had such a rough go of it his first year with just a totally dysfunctional organization. Ron Rivera's right. They have all the pieces. With the pieces on defense, that front seven is fierce. Even without Chase Young, who got injured in this game, they're still a fierce front seven, one of the most talented. And then you've got that offensive line. So you talk about the trenches. They're built from the trenches, that team. So they've got all the pieces that you need as a young quarterback. So I totally am with, as sad as it is to say, I watched the highlights of this game. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but those picks, 2 of them were really bad. And I watched them and I was like, wasn't he like a Heisman Trophy winner, or he was up there because he had 50 touchdowns and 3 picks or something in his final year at Ohio State. And I was like, this is this guy? Like, he's making these decisions. So I am with Ron Rivera and the Redskins organization for moving Haskins. They can't.
Washington football team.
Oh my God.
You've washed your mouth with soap, sir.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if I'm out on this podcast again. Can't show my face at work tomorrow after this.
Yeah, bad move, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I'm with them if they need to move off of them after this game. The Giants are a bad football team. Are you going to be better than a bad football team? That's the question that Haskins has to ask himself. And if he can't pull it off, if he can't make himself look like a competent starter in this league, of course they're going to be asking, well, what else do we have here? We've got Kyle Allen. He showed that he can win in the league. Let's go with him. So I think that this is really possibly his last dance, and it's a somber day.
It is sad because I feel like I almost compare it to like Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold obviously was a much higher touted quarterback in the 2018 class than Haskins was in 2019, but both have just been blessed, I say that in quotations, with some really inept franchises. And a lot of people are coming to bat for Darnold, but I feel like Darnold's making more plays that are kind of more jaw-dropping, or like there's it's becoming a meme now where it's like, if Patrick Mahomes made this throw, you'd be talking about it for 2 months, and it's Darnold making like a 6 sidearm throw while running the opposite direction of which he's throwing. But I haven't seen Haskins make anything like that. Like I haven't seen a Haskins highlight. Like I've seen a Darnold highlight of saying like, hey, here's his potential. Like maybe it's just because I'm not watching enough Washington highlights or games, but there is talent on this roster. I mean, we said in the preview show that this would be a long time coming, this team. Like it's going to be a couple of rough years. They're hitting the reset button. They're building it from the ground up. But there's got to be flashes in there. And I don't know if we've seen enough of that from Haskins to really warrant continuing with him. But is the Giants' last stand? I agree with you. But personally, maybe it's my bias getting in the way. I'd probably let him have at least the first half of the season, knowing that this year isn't your year. Like you need to at least see what you have. if you want to say the first 4 games he's played is almost like a preseason for him to kind of get his feet under him, then the next 4 are your true evaluation. And if by week 8 or 9, whenever their bye week is, you don't like what you see, then you can move on to Kyle Allen and maybe see what you have there in a potential bridge quarterback or a future kind of franchise quarterback, or you tank for Trevor. So it's just really tough, but could he have success on another team? Maybe, but he's got to limit the mistakes, and 4 turnovers in a game. Well, the rest of your team's working as hard as Ron Rivera says they are, and I'll take Ron Rivera's word for it. It's not a great look for him.
Yeah, I'll actually clarify or maybe even change slightly my take on this. I would say that from the Reds football team.
Oh, there you go.
And I used to be so good at this. Why am I bad?
You need like a swear jar, but it's not for swears. It's just for saying the R word.
Yeah, exactly. For football team, from their perspective, they should consider moving off of Haskins after this game. Mm-hmm. What I do is very similar to what you said, Steve. I would ride it out longer than that, because what's the worst thing that happens if you keep Haskins in there? You keep losing. And like you said, that's not a bad thing, because you could tank for Trevor or insert quarterback here. There's 2 others that I can't. Justin Fields is one, and then there's a third who's supposed to be a really good prospect. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with keeping Haskins as a starter. I just think that if you lose to the Giants, or at least look really bad against the Giants, then you're going to have some questions to be answered. And from an organization perspective, if you at least want to field the best team, you're probably going to go with somebody else. But what I would do is very similar to what you said, and just go with Haskins and ride it out as long as you can until you're out of contention and you're in contention for the top pick.
Mm-hmm. But for the sake of a cool podcast episode title, HasKIng's Last Stand. I mean, come on, man. It's like his last chance. Yeah.
HasKIng for the throne.
There we go. Him versus Alex Smith's deformed leg, which I don't think he should really be playing football after seeing all that. But hey, props to him for coming back. So I'm no doctor. All right, Ozzy, let's review some week 4 matchups. And unfortunately, the 2 we have in here, we're putting here before the COVID outbreak, which could impact the first 2 games we talk about. But I want to talk about them anyways, because they'll be played eventually. So we got the 3-0 Steelers visiting the 3-0 Titans. AFC heavyweights at the moment, both 3-0, but 2 different philosophies. So Ben Baldwin, who we sometimes cite here as the analytics, he's the main analytics guy I follow on Twitter anyways. The Steelers are 12th highest in early down pass frequency, excluding the first 2 minutes of each half. So what that means is on downs 1 and 2, excluding the last 2 minutes of each half, the Steelers are passing the 12th most in the NFL. So the Seahawks surprisingly are number 2 in that category. The Chiefs are number 1. So you kind of have more of a different philosophy there. The Titans are 5th lowest in that metric. So really relying on the run game, though Tannehill had a pretty strong game, if I'm remembering the stats correctly, against the Vikings, who have a weak pass defense. So that was warranted. So I'm really interested to see if this game does get played, how it'll work with these 2 different philosophies going head to head. If the Titans can manage the time of possession and keep the ball out of Big Ben's hands and preventing them from having success on those early down passes as they've had, or if the Steelers score too quick and often for the Titans to keep up with their run first philosophy, and if they'll have to turn it to Tannehill, which, hey, they put up 31 points last week against the Vikings, but Steelers defense has a little more meat to it than that. All that being said, if this game is played, I'm going to take the Steelers 28-21 in this one, similar to their game against the Texans. I just think the Titans will keep up because they are a good team and they are going to be a contender in this conference, but the Steelers are looking really good and I'm struggling to pick against them right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. That Steelers defense, it just hasn't missed a beat. They've always been really good. I don't know how they have always stayed this good. Like, they can just shut down teams entirely. And I think that they've got the pieces up front to shut down the Titans run game. So I think it's a really bad matchup for the Titans in that sense. And then if you want to just throw it over the top, well, I don't think that you're going to have much luck there either. You still got Minkah Fitzpatrick back there and at the safety spot holding everything down. and then insert Steelers cornerback here. I don't even know their names, but
Just Joe Hayden's one of them.
Oh, Joe Hayden is one of them still. Yeah, so their point being they're always really good back there. It doesn't even matter who's back there. So I think that this is a really bad matchup for the Titans. I think that the Titans fall to 3-1. And I think that the Steelers will put up 30 on them. Not to say the Titans are bad. I just think that the defense will be able to shut them down. I could see this one being like 31-20 for the Steelers. The Titans, even if they get 20 points, I think it'd be like in garbage time.
Okay.
I really just take it to them and take away their strength. So.
All right, the way we go with that one. So the next game also in jeopardy due to the Vikings having played the Titans last week. We have the 0-3 Vikings versus the 0-3 Texans. Now, a fun tidbit in some research I was doing, Ozzy, the last 0-3 team to make the playoffs, it was actually the Houston Texans led by Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien. They went and finished the season 11-5, so quite the run, going 11-2 to finish up the season before falling to the Andrew Luck-led Colts in the AFC wildcard round. So now it's not looking as promising. I mean, this team definitely is weaker on paper than I'd say that 2018 team was. And Watson even hasn't really looked himself lately either. One of these teams is going to be 0-4. And, I pretty much puts a death sentence, I believe. Well, the Vikings just signed Mike Zimmer to an extension. So I don't know if that puts his job on the line, but I mean, something's got to give in Minnesota. I mean, I know there was a lot of turnover, and I thought maybe the rejuvenation of young talent on the defensive side of the football would have led them to win the division. But now I'm looking mighty foolish after that take. Looking pretty good having the Texans. I think I had them at 7-9, but even then, that's 7 wins is looking like a stretch for this team. That all being said, we saw the Vikings put up a lot of points last week. They put up 30. They lost 31-30. So we know Kirk Cousins is able to put up points for this team. It's just whether or not this defense can get its collective act together, and they're very young and still learning. They lost a lot of veteran presence there over the offseason, but I don't like this Texans team. Like, just something doesn't seem right there, and I think I don't feel like aren't buying into Bill O'Brien. I feel like they've tuned him out. I mean, obviously the offseason trades might have played a role into that. Watson's just signed an extension, so he's there for the long term, but I think there's going to be some new coaching going in there. A lot of people are looking at Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs potentially being a suitor there, and get him and Watson in the kitchen together.
Man, that'd be freaking nice.
That'd be nice. The Texans just need to let Deshaun dominate trending on Twitter and then meme their way to quarterback success. But I'm going to take the Vikings in this one. I think they take it 27-20. The Texans just aren't inspiring confidence in me. The Vikings at least have shown a little bit of flash in their offense, but it's not pretty for either of these teams. They're both missing the playoffs, but for the sake of this game, I think the Texans stay winless.
See, I haven't seen too much from the Texans to think that they're like, I didn't like what I saw on opening night. I didn't like that they weren't letting Deshaun cook or Deshaun dominate. But look at who they've played, Steve. They've played the Chiefs, they've played the Ravens, and now they've played the Steelers. I'm not surprised in the slightest that they're 0-3. That's not a very nice schedule to start your season for a team that is not off to good starts, as 2018 showed anything either. They're like, they need that. You need a gimme here, and this is exactly it. They just need a get right game. This is like a perfect matchup because the Vikings secondary has been putrid, and so you've got Deshaun Watson who can air it out. You've got tons of weapons offensively for the Texans. Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb has been showing out, and Will Fuller, etc. So I think that this is going to be a really good game for the Texans. They are going to get right in this one, and I've got it 34-24 for the Texans. Yeah, I think that we've yet to see like the real Texans team. They played solid defenses throughout. Like,
that's fair.
Super Bowl contender, but they're playing like Super Bowl contending teams, right? So,
but they haven't
conversation, but they're not going to be just absolutely balled out. Just I don't know.
I'll agree they've played some tough competition, but I mean, if you're going to put yourself in that conversation of being a playoff team, I mean, at least got to be 1-2 here. I mean, it's at this rate, you're a below average team if you're, like, I agree if like if they came in and threw their best punch and maybe squeezed out one victory against one of these teams, like, okay, hey, you had a tough schedule, at least you got a victory, but like 0-3 just tells me like you are clearly not at this echelon of tier here. And like you said, the Vikings aren't either with their 31st ranked pass defense. So maybe Watson can cook, but I don't really have a lot of confidence in the receivers he has there as opposed to when he had Hopkins. In fact, I just traded Will Fuller away on fantasy because his hamstring's just too inconsistent for my taste. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans won, but I really don't have confidence in this team as a whole. All right, we got the 2-1 Browns against the 2-1 Cowboys. So if me and you know anything, the Steelers could be 4-0. So the Browns are going to have to keep pace and move to 3-1. But in their way is Dak Prescott. Ozzy, can Baker continue to make quick work of the Dallas secondary that allowed Goff, Matt Ryan, and Russell Wilson to shred it? Or are they going to keep going back to that ground game of Chubb and Kareem Hunt?
I think they know what works for them, and I think that they're going to stick with the ground game. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work against the Cowboys. Yeah. And this could get ugly because when the Browns stray away from that game plan, it doesn't look pleasant. And I'm worried for the Browns. This is a matchup that is not well for them. And you've got Dak, who is lighting it up right now. Maybe it's against bad teams, but he's still putting up points, and that's all you want from a quarterback. You want a guy that's going to keep you in games. And I think that this will be – I say it could get ugly with the Browns straying from their game plan just because that's what's happened in the past. I don't think it will. I think it'll be a close game, but I don't think the Browns are going to be able to run a whole lot on this Cowboys team because I didn't see much success from the Seahawks game. That's pretty well the only Cowboys game that I watched. And then the other one, they were down so bad that they didn't really have much of a running game. So, no, the Falcons, sorry, would have been the ones. So there we go. I think that their points were more of a result of turnovers from the Cowboys. So I didn't watch that one either, but here I am just ruining my credibility. And
very good.
Nonetheless, I haven't seen much from the Cowboys that would indicate that Chubb is going to run all over them. So I've got the Cowboys eking out this one, and it's 27-16.
Ooh, that's 11-point eke there. I have the Dallas winning this one as well. Probably much. Go ahead again.
Sorry, just a widespread eke.
Just a widespread eke, man. I don't know what I'm doing there. Okay, so I have Dallas winning this one as well, much to Zach's dismay. Baker's been playing really good, efficient football with this run game there, but like you said, if Dallas can shut that down early, I don't know if I trust Baker to put the team on his back, so to speak. They might have to lean on that play action, and that could be his way out of this and producing. Like, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a strong run game in the game to produce on play action. It can still fool him just as well because the linebackers still need to stay true to the run. But I just feel like Dak we saw Joe Burrow throw 61 times on this team, and I mean, they lost 35-30. So I think this secondary can be scored on, this Browns secondary, and I think Dak and these receivers are probably more talented than what the Bengals are throwing at them right now. I have the Cowboys winning this one 34-24. I think the Browns can put up points, but it's probably going to get away from them near the end of the game there. So unfortunately, Zach's Browns will fall to 2-2. And if the Steelers and Ravens, who are now 3-1, continue trending this way, or 2-1 right now, if they continue trending this way, then, they could find themselves out of a playoff spot looking in. So, Ozzy, last game on the game's matchups to watch this week. Your 2-1 Pats are traveling to the 3-0 Chiefs. I think this will be a really telltale sign if the Pats are true contenders. If they can put up a better performance than what we saw out of the Ravens, then you're right there with everyone. Now, Cam Newton didn't look great with or against the Las Vegas Raiders. I only say that because he scored 11 points for me in fantasy. I'm not sure what the actual tape looked like, but what's your confidence level going into this game, and are you predicting a Patriots victory?
After watching what the Chiefs did to the run-heavy Ravens, my confidence went from like a 7 out of 10 to about a 5, like a little bit of a dip there, just because the Chiefs really shut down that Ravens run attack, and that was kind of scary. Because the Patriots just ran 250 yards on the Raiders, if you didn't know. And that was really fun to watch. After Cam put up almost 400 yards against the Seahawks?
Seattle, yeah.
So that is promising. It's showing that they can mix up their offensive attack based on the competition. So even if we can't pound the rock on the Chiefs, I think that we've got enough that we've got Cam Newton that he can air it out against the Chiefs. But like I said, my confidence isn't very high. I'm never going to choose against the Pats. This will always be an L if the Pats don't win. And what I mean by that, obviously, is for this pick, it will always be an L. Because I always choose the Patriots to win. But anyways, words are confusing.
It's late.
Yeah, it's late. So I'm going to choose the Pats to win this one, and it's going to be 33-30.
Wow.
A high-scoring game. Pat Mahomes is like, nobody can stop him. You just got to keep up and hope for the best. And, so 33-30. Cam's going to light it up and set Nick Folk up for a late field goal.
There you go. Ozzy, I want to let you know I'm cheering for Cam Newton and the Patriots this week. I want to see Cam succeed, and like even seeing like that funny clip of him on the bench, like sliding down as he just kind of like N'Keal Harry must have been saying something really wild because he just slid down the bench there with just kind of like a bruh moment, and just a fun player, man. Like just he's having fun. He's a joy to watch, and it's just like when you don't have a rooting interest in the game, like you just want to see him succeed and light it up because like that's entertaining. That's good football. So I'll be rooting for him. Unfortunately, I think this Chiefs defense is this Chiefs offense, like we saw Russ put up 5 touchdowns on the Patriots. I don't know what Mahomes will do. Obviously there's not a lot of correlation there, but I feel like, if Gilmore can take out Tyreek, that's great, but I still feel like Mahomes can make a lot of things happen with the other receivers that he has there. And we saw DK give Gilmore trouble too. So it's going to be really tough, but it's going to be a tight one. I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one, 34-31. The Pats lose their second shootout, but still building blocks there. Like they're still competing with these upper echelon teams. They'll be 2-2, but if they can beat up on some of these mid-tier to lower tier teams, they can get themselves a nice 10-6 record and a wild card spot and maybe surprise some teams after that. But it's going to be a tough loss, but I can't believe I'm speaking so positively of the Patriots right now, but I love seeing Cam Newton go to work, and it's just really cool to watch, especially when he's not playing you. So,
yeah, it was, even if we lose a game that close, or this game against the Chiefs, I would feel so good about this team still because, and it's weird. Like maybe it is too lenient on the Patriots to be that pumped up about losses, but I was pumped up about the Seattle loss. Just kind of that was showing us what we're capable of. And if we can go toe to toe with the Chiefs, even in a loss, I think that gives you every reason to believe that they can still do it and maybe pull out a win in the playoffs. So I would be just as happy as if that happened. But you want the dub, of course, especially against Super Bowl champs. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how this defense can hold up against Pat Mahomes. Gilmore hasn't looked like the defensive player of the year. He's had some tough competition as of late, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir. And be sure to check out the rest of our picks with on our social media. Sorry, we had a good start in week 2. I mean, Zach went 14-2, you and I went 13-3, but then week 3 comes around. Zach goes 6-10, I go 8-8, and you go 9-7. So you had the best record of the 3 of us. So the amazing fluctuations of the NFL. I mean, we all had the Cardinals, I think, winning that game against the Lions. So there's one that kind of just goes back and bites in the ass. But right now, Ozzy, you jumped in the first place, 22-10. Myself is 21-11. Zach's 20-12. We didn't do week 1 picks. We just didn't even think of it until week 2. So I'll just put that up as a collective L for all of us. But yeah, I'm really excited. So be sure Sunday morning, stay tuned for our weekly picks that come out, and let us know if you agree or disagree. And hopefully they'll be consistent with what we're talking about here. Sometimes I have a change of heart in the next, 5 days from when we're recording this, but you never know.
Speaking of that freaking Cardinals game, if the Cardinals won that game, I would have had all my picks correctly. I had a card on that one. I would have paid out $750.
Oh,
The Cardinals freaking lost it. Are you kidding me, guys? Like, I'm so high on these. They lose to the Lions, who I'm so low on. Matt Patricia was supposed to be fired already in my eyes. Like, what the hell are we doing, Cardinals? How are we to the Lions?
a good thing
Man.
we haven't. It's good that we haven't ventured into the gambling sphere of things. Yeah, that could be on the future docket of the amateur agency, but we need to maybe improve our pick'em metrics before we start costing our listeners money instead of making the money. So,
yeah.
Ozzy, where can everyone find you on Twitter to potentially get in on this pick'em cards that you're doing?
Oh, heck yeah. Well, peeps, you can find me on Twitter at AustinPaul _. That's Austin with a Y, not
an I.
Not an I. Y. Get it?
Just get angry. Instagram?
Yeah. Oh, Instagram, same thing. Austin with a Y, not an I.
Could you imagine if someone followed you correctly on Twitter, but then typed it in with an I on Instagram if you hadn't said it a second time?
I was thinking about changing it, honestly, just to, not that like I'm worried that people aren't finding me, but just, just is a little bit tough for some people.
You should change it to Austin with an I just to throw everyone off, like 81 episodes worth of like putting it down people's brains. Like, hey, it's with a Y, not an I. And then you just change it to Austin with an I, not a Y.
Everybody's completely thrown off because they just don't know. They don't know how to look up the amateur agency page and look Austin.
We have to fold. We fold. The entire operation shuts down because we go back to 0 followers and listeners on everything. So that's a dark timeline. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBullen22. You can find me on Instagram at SteveBullen_. And of course, don't forget about our co-host Zach. You can find him on Twitter at Zach Foth and on Instagram at Zach Foth _. Look at me remembering your guys' handles, man. Good guy, Steve. Be sure to check out all the agency accounts, guys. We're trying to get more active on there. Again, sharing our predictions, our Thursday night pick'ems, which, God, the Jets and Broncos is a real stinker. So we'll still put one out because we're dedicated to the craft, but we won't blame you if you don't watch that one. Just go like the picture. And thank you for listening. And we'll be back next week for episode 82. Good night and Godspeed.